이건 내 작은 고백 너무 걱정 말고 들어봐 비바람이 지나고 난 뒤 몸에 상처 없어 내 마음까진 아직 이제부터 둘러봐야지 난 저기 구석까지 또 높은 저곳까지 빠짐없이 찾아가야지 일어서는 것도 헤엄치는 것도 숨 참는 법도 몰랐던 거야 어른이라 해도 다 어설픈 게 많지 겉으론 다들 아닌 척을 해 바다 끝을 짚고 나서 빛을 따라 올라가 어디든 가도 돼 겁없는 아이같이 어릴 적 보물을 찾아내던 마침내 아무도 본 적 없던 비밀스런 호수 위에 있는 파도에 밀려날 필요 없이 눈 감고 가만히 몸을 띄워드디어 아무도 본 적 없던 비밀스런 호수 위에 있는 아무도 본 적 없던 비밀스런 호수 위에 아무도 본 적 없던 비밀스런 호수 위에 이런 peace
Good evening and welcome back to Rhythmgates, where I attempted to look up what was going on last night and didn't apparently say anything at the end of, not last night, on Sunday, say anything very clear at the end of the stream about where we were. But it looks like we're currently engaged in more mining in order to acquire more amethysts, though we appear to have quite enough amethysts already. And of course, up on the surface, there is an ongoing wrestling match between a bronze colossus and two death zombies. Goblin elite wrestler faded butchers, not death zombies, sorry.
Very important distinction, I'm sure. So,
Yes.
So I'm betting on the elite on the grounds that the bronze colossus is nearly dangerous.
Well, they have the usual thing going on where, if I remember rightly, where the bronze colossus tries to strangle the faded butcher, but that doesn't work very well because the faded butcher doesn't need to breathe.
The faded butcher in return tries all kinds of attacks
Against the bronze colossus, most of which don't work because the bronze colossus is like 20 feet tall and made of bronze.
That being the point of one. Yeah.
And so, like,
You not attempt to bite things that are made of bronze.
yes, I mean, it doesn't actually say and all his teeth fall out, but I mean, apparently they also have some kind of interesting attack whereby the faded butcher raises a hand and the bronze colossus grimaces, which is interesting because I don't think bronze colossus is in general experience pain. But this suggests you might be able to give a non-pain experiencing creature an experience of pain, as it were. So yes, that's kind of just happening, I think. And presumably at some point something there will change briefly and someone will actually make some progress in that fight. All right, and this is the Faded Butcher, who isn't currently actually being strangled by the Bronze Colossus, who thus gets to do other things, but none of them work because Bronze Colossus. Let me repeatedly kick the Bronze Colossus. I'm sure that will do something. I mean, it's not like you have any other alternatives, but still.
Where did these faded butchers come from? We got necromancer around.
We did have. They were killed by the Bronze Colossus.
Right.
Basically, the bronze. I think a necromancer scholar ended up trying to come into the fortress through the Bronze Colossus. This didn't go very well, and eventually the Bronze Colossus killed the necromancer scholar, but not until after they'd raised a bunch of other people that the Bronze Colossus had already killed once, including some of an incoming army, hence the goblin Faded Butcher elite wrestler thingamy, who was one of the besieging army that was the reason why the Bronze Colossus was out at all. And one was an incoming scholar who had been attempting to get into the library.
Well, I like Claire's theory. I had the same thought myself, that when the faded butchers can cause the Bronze Colossus to grimace, it's not actually making the Colossus feel pain, it's just making it gurn.
Yes, I suppose that might be it.
Probably more interesting would be them be able to cause a creature to grimace that doesn't have a face. If they can do it, I don't know, a tree or something. Or a forgotten beast, amorphous blob slug thing.
I want you to carry on mining that seam there. So yes, we have mostly, I think, cleared out these layers with the galena and amethysts on. Oh, I should move my IRC window down onto the correct screen so that I can actually see what's going on. That's better. Right, that has worked all right there. Slightly wondering whether we cancel that entire corridor now. But on the other hand, it is a we haven't actually found the edge of the granite yet.
I basically just put it 1, then 2, and then 3, and 6, and 5, and 9, and 8. Not really more supplement. I thought it came out quite cute if I go from the numbers down and turn it. Because then you can see the whole pattern there. Oh, it's like that. I think that's a good one. Is that a pattern?
Right, we found the edge of the granite in that seam, that vein. Let's now actually let's go up through the granite because we know that anything interesting is going to extend into the granite, don't we? I think. This vein's going a long way. So I don't think we get amethysts in the diorite. But I think the galena veins can extend into the diorite. Yes, so that's actually mostly in diorite anyway. Pink Beaster asks, what's the difference between a death zombie and a regular one? Well, thank you, Simon. Yes, it's not death. Well, except it is. So there are different kinds of undead in Dwarf Fortress, and an ordinary zombie is what you get when you raise an unintelligent creature from the dead. So, like a rhinoceros, for instance. And if you raise a rhinoceros from the dead, then I really can't do this and speak. Designating all, mark that, and while we're here, that. So if you raise a rhinoceros from the dead, then you get what appears to be a creature called a rhinoceros corpse, which will, at least in some circumstances, be referred to as a zombie. So that's what we had plenty of in Nose Tools, say. If, on the other hand, at least if you're and that's also what you get if you if an intelligent creature is raised from the dead by the ambient evil in an evil biome, like again we had in Nose Tools. If, on the other hand, a necromancer raises an intelligent creature like a dwarf or a goblin, then what you get instead is intelligent undead. And unlike unintelligent undead, these are, well, intelligent. They have magic in that they generally get raised with some power that they wave their hand, and in this case cause someone to grimace. It's not a very useful power, really. And they, more interestingly, retain the loyalties and the skills that they had when they were new. The faded butchers, which are the same kind of thing as a death zombie, they're both kinds of intelligent undead, were part of our invading goblin army, are still part of that invading goblin army, and are still thus loyal to their goblin civilization and will attack anyone who's part of our fortress. On the other hand, no, that was not the right thing to do. On the other hand, the scholar will be neutral and may even come to visit the library after they've managed to escape. If they manage to escape, though I think the Bronze Colossus is probably going to win. And so this was one of the reasons why the Mortal Coil was not exactly the best way to deal with invading armies, because we killed them, re-raised them as undead, and they were still an invading army. They were just now an invading undead army, which wasn't like a great improvement. But happily they could then be killed again. So I think maybe they... do they still count as invader? I think they turn in. Yes, they become hostile rather than an invader, which probably means that they don't count. That they stop counting for how many of the opposing army are still alive, which I suspect is what causes sieges to end. So we've actually got another faded butcher who's currently in our library. I don't know if they were one who survived the interaction with the Bronze Colossus. An enormous hairy Dimetrodon. What's one of those?
It's a not dinosaur. You think
Right.
it's a dinosaur with a great big sail on the back, but I think it turns out that they predate dinosaurs and they're not technically dinosaurs.
Okay, right, thank you. Two stubby tails, and it undulates rhythmically. It has long grey hair, long shaggy grey hair, and it's a web spinner. Right. A web spinner, eh? Yes, Dizzy, I'm sure you can undulate rhythmically. So that's a bit of a problem. because that means we can't trap it using webs like we usually do. So we will need to build a proper trap for it like we did for the previous web spinning Forgotten Beast. So obviously we should arrange that this is somewhere near to the existing one. So I kind of feel maybe we can give it a room off to this side.
I mean, that was a sort of extent of my reasoning. I worked out to about 30. I thought these are just numbers, but it's all 53 this involved, so I got them turning out. I see. Now we can write down exactly what's going on and prove it by induction.
So yes, I think we should try to make this nicely symmetric and have another room off to this side that the new Forgotten Beast can live in. Or off to some side, and this is probably the easiest direction to build in, because we can't really go this way because that's where we trap things. And we can't go, and going this way is kind of tangled by those stairs. So first we want to say everyone out of the caverns again, and at fairly high priority. I'll let you mine gems in preference, but nothing else. Let's dig out a room, so that corresponds with that square. That's the square with the window in. That's the square that we'll put the. Going to need access to this. So that this entrance is the one we for public viewing. So actually that's the last one we build, isn't it? We want first. To construct something over here so that 1, 2, 3, 4 squares that way, 2, 3, 4 squares that way. So then that wants to be some downstairs, that wants to be some upstairs. It's a slight problem that the edge of the rock is there, and it might be able to web spin at us through that, which will be kind of embarrassing. So maybe we don't make this room quite as big. And then so we'll have a couple of squares that we put the bridge in. And then something like that. Something doesn't agree on the two sides, does it? No. Floor, window, oh yes. Right, that's better. That's now more or less symmetric, except that if we wanted to do this properly, we'd need to dig through that wall and then construct a new wall out there. and I'm not sure that can be done safely. Right, so let us allow that digging to commence. Meanwhile, let us follow our uninvited Dimetrodon. Obviously, we need people to come home as soon as they can. Go upstairs, thank you. Right, so there is still someone trying to get home. A trick we can pull here is to open that. Meanwhile, we definitely want to lock that. So by repeatedly changing which trapdoor is locked, I can taunt the Forgotten Beast and not let it in. But the problem is the trapdoors are so close together that I don't think the planter can get in either. So we rather need someone to pull that lever, which is going to take a little while. Maybe I just lock all these doors, because it's not like I want the planter to come this way.
Just in case people have seen it. Yes.
So what I really want is, yes, for someone to reach that. But then the Forgotten Beast is going to chase the planter, aren't they? Which is not helpful. So now let's unlock the doors again. Curse is, it's got distracted by the planter now. I shouldn't have locked all the doors. Oh no, maybe it hasn't. Good.
It's often mistaken for a dinosaur or a contemporary of dinosaurs in popular culture, but came extinct 40 million years before the first appearance of dinosaurs. Well, the Dimetrodon, really Dimetrodon. Polygon is also two metric spaces and a dinosaur. What more do you want? Perfect size.
Right, those cats are probably going to suffer.
A Dimetrodon is Tridon juice.
Yeah, the cat didn't last long. The Forgotten Beast now has another name because it's killed a cat. No, 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 no. Don't try to do anything with the cat corpses, you mad people. So the Forgotten Beast has now snagged a second cat. Kind of hoping that at some point someone will actually get round to pulling that lever. In the meantime, I sit here juggling Forgotten Beast. What is Forgotten Beast doing now? It has just kicked two cats in the head. Why is the Forgotten Beast lying down? It's not hurt or anything. Let's just check I've genuinely forbidden the floor hatch above it. It stood up again. So we even haven't noticed that it stood up. And the Forgotten Beast is now very confused by the way that doors keep getting locked and unlocked whenever it gets close, locked whenever it gets close to them, and unlocked as soon as it steps away from them. Wonder if I presume I can't build pressure plates on stairs, no. Because then you could maybe arrange that this would work automatically. Right, that one's going to lock as well. See. And mostly I'm doing this to keep the Forgotten Beast distracted while while someone pulls the lever that will let the lost dwarf into the fortress. Someone is assigned to that job at least. And indeed is fairly close to the lever. But yes, it's still going to take a little while. I mean, I could lock all of the hatches, but then the Forgotten Beast would go after the dwarf. Which would not end well for the dwarf. The lever pulling dwarf is at the lever.
So, leave a pulling dwarf.
Yes, thank you. It'll of course take a little while for that to take effect. Ooh, a change of approach. I may have to lock the planter's about, I hope, about to get scared away. By coming around the corner and seeing this thing again, which was precisely where they left it. Or they might get webbed. Well, that's going to be bad for them if they do. Right, the planter is now dead. Planter has been knocked unconscious. Yes, the planter has not been knocked unconscious because their head has been bitten off.
Yes,
Tends to cause unconsciousness quite rapidly, that.
Conscious at that point, is it? I mean, can you be conscious when you don't have a brain anymore? It's the majority who doesn't have a brain anymore.
Well, yes, there might be. The thing is, it's quite tricky to separate the dwarves from the forgotten beasts, as it were. Which is why we have this slightly silly thing. But I would point out I didn't actually get anything wrong in that sequence of fiddling around. And someone has actually managed to injure the forgotten beast. Somehow. Something has injured the forgotten beast. Its head is dented. Hang on, no, that's the wrong forgotten beast. Right, that's fine then. This one is not dented. Right, yeah, that's all right. I'm no longer confused. Yes, we've found some cat's eye, and I need to tag that. Right, so I think that I will quickly look that there are no other dwarves we need to, whose return we need to await. are, on the other hand, lots of cats. Oh, there's some gems there. Probably not right now, but when you're allowed out again. Gems there as well. I'm just exploring, looking for anyone who's still alive down here. Right. I think there is thus no one still alive in the caverns. So I've already locked the main entrance. Let us also lock that access. So it should now be physically impossible to get into the caverns. Which means I should be able to safely unpause. The Forgotten Beast is busy killing cats. Oh no, there's a military dwarf. Right. Given their location, just be slightly brave and unlock that. They may, of course, be slightly brave themselves. They may, of course, kill the Forgotten Beast. Like, it's possible. Being webbed will not help with that, though. Oh dear. Spear Dwarf is caught up in the web. The Spear Dwarf falls over. The Forgotten Beast scratches the Spear Dwarf in the head, bruising the fat through the giant cave spider silk hood.
Why was the Spear Dwarf carrying a copy of Glue, Fact or Fiction?
I don't know. The force bends the neck, tearing apart the muscle and tearing apart the upper spine's nervous tissue. An artery has been opened, a tendon in the upper spine has been torn. That may mean that you can no longer actually use any of your limbs, thus losing hold of glue, fact or fiction, an iron shield and a bronze spear.
Is this dwarf that's not sure whether glue is fact now stuck to a web?
Yes.
Well,
I mean, we can see what glue, fact or fiction is about, but I kind of suspect it's about glue. A 61-page manual entitled Glue, Fact or Fiction, authored by Thomod Ramwave, concerns the preparation and use of adhesive material. The writing is stunningly self-indulgent. I mean, to be fair, I think the title is really clickbait, given that the content is, yes, here's how you make glue.
and first where we clicked.
Yes, it's true. Right, so now there is, again, no point in allowing people into the fortress. Probably no point in allowing people in there, except that someone else might turn up. Let's leave that unlocked for now, because it's quick. It's fairly slow to adjust that. Yeah, that was fatal fairly shortly after that.
There's a curious thing about the combat modes in this game. They seem remarkably unconcerned with life and death.
Well, once someone's dead, you can no longer say anything about them. They don't do anything after that.
But at the beginning of the game, any other game would consider this to be an extremely significant moment.
That one worth putting in the combat log, yes.
NetHack never fails to narrate it. for example. In many games, it's the trigger for all sorts of important other gameplay features like gaining XP or.
Yes, whereas here it's just it's a thing that isn't even mentioned. Partly because I think,
And from an immediate combat perspective, the important point is not when they stop living. The important point is when they stop fighting back.
yes, I think part of it is that the game, in particular the logs, are kind of narrated from the point of view of, well, not quite from the point of view of, but are dependent on your having someone who can see them happening. So now we don't know what's happened there because our eyes have vanished. So we didn't actually see the death. Someone will come along later and observe the death, and will say, "Oh, thing has been found dead." But yes, it is. But there is also the odd thing that it's slightly hard to ascribe. Many deaths are slightly hard to ascribe to the killer because they're often deaths by blood loss.
Yeah.
So you don't. I mean, obviously, in the case where your head has been ripped off by a forgotten beast, that's fairly clear how that killed you. But in cases of death that would be by like gradual loss of hit points in most games, here it's by, well, you've had this arterial bleed for the last 50 rounds, and your blood is now mostly in a puddle on the floor rather than inside you. And then we'll have to go back and work out who it was that killed you. By who removed the...
It's okay to say so-and-so dies rather than
yes.
so-and-so is killed by the thing that hit it 50 turns ago.
But yes, it is rather weird that like you don't get to see... It's going to go in there just in order to deal with all the cats, isn't it? And I'm not going to object. We have too many cats.
Let's just get in a bit better. Not moving this way. Towards going from this way.
I can, on the other hand, allow people into the caverns because they can't get into the caverns.
This is all
So I should probably actually do this by properly marking this area as an acceptable place to go, and similarly that area there, because that way there won't be so much refusing to do things. Right, so assuming I've got that right, let's just check that I've got that right. So that's locked, and those four are locked, yes. And those two are actually inaccessible and locked to be on the safe side. That one's unlocked because that's the access to dig out the trap for this new forgotten beast. There was a temporary measure. If we could manage to pull that lever quickly, we might be able to contain it outside the caverns. Contain it somewhere, albeit not where we want to contain it. No, okay, it's come out again. So there's an awful lot of web down there, as the Forgotten Beast disposes of a vast quantity of kittens, and indeed fully grown cats. Meanwhile, we hurriedly dig. So we're going to need a lever. make it a nice accessible lever because it's only going to be temporary. We're going to want a fortification which for symmetry should go there. We actually need a green glass window, aren't we, which we probably have to make. Yes. We're going to want a bridge yes. Oh, it's in its little box again. Let's have another go. Trapping it there, just in case. So that will make life simpler if we can trap it. Yes, right, excellent. So now the Forgotten Beast is in the place where we don't really want it, because it's in the place where we would usually trap a non-web spinning Forgotten Beast. But on the other hand, that means it's not in the caverns, so we can safely do things that involve entering the caverns. In particular, thus, we can make its room the size we actually want to make its room. Because we're going to have a short delay while we build that window anyway. Slightly surprisingly, the cat that's in the room with the Forgotten Beast is still alive. So now I can unlock those again and allow access to the caverns. Probably means we should dispose of all these cat corpses. I mean, we might, I suppose, be able to butcher some of them, so maybe I should leave them not marked for disposal just yet. One of them that was weirdly... that I had to forbid in order to stop someone coming to pick it up, wasn't there? Yes, right. Right, the other cat has been dealt with. Everyone's now going to get trapped in these webs and have to fight their way free, but that's a good way to clear the webs out. Like, there's no... A web will only trap a dwarf for like a minute or so. It's just that that's long enough to get killed by a Forgotten Beast. So almost all the webs are now clear. So since we now have the Forgotten Beast contained, we can safely dig that out as well. That appears to be a confused coffin that is owned by no one but isn't available for burial, so I'm going to dismantle it and reinstate it. Meanwhile, presumably.
Turning off and on again.
Yeah, precisely. Looks like we need to make some more, quite a lot more memorials. Datan Akrulaban. In general, anyone entombed and not memorialised probably wants to be memorialised. Can't find Datan Akrulaban in here. I mean, those two are presumably about to get buried. So let's add engraving memorials to them as well.
These cats are making nuclear noises, but I don't actually know what noises newts make. So, except when they go splot from falling off the log. So,
Doesn't appear to be any jobs to butcher any of these cats, so presumably they're all too small to be worth it. Yeah, I think no one thinks cats are worth butchering. So let's dispose of them. May as well dispose of all of the... probably a cat corpse. Someone is working on the stone bridge. Indeed, there they are. Obviously need a floor hatch there. The window is under construction. We want to attach this lever here to the brand new bridge. We want to install a very boring mechanism in the bridge, and well, we don't really care about the lever because it's going to be demolished as soon as we've finished anyway. I think the window has now been made. What are we waiting for now? We're waiting for the lever to be connected, yes. And we should mark this area here as not being raising, not being part of the fortress, because we want to get everyone to leave it when we come to try to let the Forgotten Beast into it. But we're currently just waiting for a dwarf to handle connecting up that lever. So meanwhile, Jacob said that there was a cluster of gems somewhere that we had found. Yes, don't think it actually is 35. There are some. It was those ones on 56. Right. May as well mine those. Those. Going like these are some quite big gaps here, aren't they? Don't really trust. Let's do it a little further to the left. Don't really trust there not to be something in there. No recent announcements from that one. Yes. The Goblin Elite Wrestler Faded Butcher has died. Yes. There. Well, once it has disposed of all of the undead, yes. I'm going to connect these two because it's kind of weird that they're not connected already. So that's still being worked on. Cool, right, Blizzards wishes to study here. Oh, you're a human. You might be slightly interesting to have around.
Spirited discussion of primary violence.
Yes. Go on, I'll allow someone to stay. Bluff. I think gas marks actually can't go below 0. Because I think they go...
Are they actually defined?
yes. And I think up from 1 upwards, 1 gas mark is 25 Fahrenheit. And downwards, every halving of gas mark is 25 Fahrenheit. So I think gas mark a half is actually what really should be gas mark 0, and gas mark a quarter is what would be gas mark -1 if it were consistent. And so it asymptotically approaches gas mark 0.
So they sort of think Fahrenheit's too sensible. Let's make it piecewise, logarithmic, and linear.
But I think the idea was that it was going to be it was linear, but then someone wanted a way of doing lower numbers, like the way that like screwdrivers come in sizes 1, 2, 3. That's perfectly fine, and 0, 00, 000, which is not so sensible.
I was going to say exactly the same thing about paintbrushes.
Yes.
Is that because they thought, well, no one wants to go smaller than this, and they did. And they did. And for some reason, everyone's afraid of putting a minus sign in front of things. Yeah. You get A minus on paper, don't you? Because A0 is a thing.
Yeah, I don't know if A-1 is officially in the standard. British Association screws deal with this by counting backwards, as in
I mean,
0 BA is roughly M6, and then the others are smaller.
why GCSEs now go 1 to a 9, so they can allow for grade inflation trivially rather than for A's and A star and they double star.
Who else wants to reside here? Meng and Dabbles. You don't sound very interesting. No, you're not going to get to stay. I appreciate that my immigration policy may be a bit arbitrary.
And do you have any large letter stamps?
I can construct them trivially.
I assume this means stamps for posting large letters and not like you're hammering the word fake on coins.
No, I've only got small letter stamps of that sort.
You can put the things down very large stamps.
Oh yes, sorry, that was apparently in IRC. If you want stamps for large letters, I can certainly assemble the correct value, even though I haven't got any officially marked as such. And we'll be happy to do so because it'll save posting them back to Royal Mail.
Letter in half and use a normal stamp.
That doesn't always work. Right, so is that connected up yet? Yes, right. So now we go clear out the caverns again, And this time we can be patient and let people and cats all come home. Well, except for the ones who decide not to. This is an excellent way to get killed, you know. Right. Is that everyone? Well, apart from a few stragglers of the feline sort. Right, I think everyone is probably now back in the fortress. So now I lock those. Oh, I need to install a cat for tempting purposes, don't I? Let us install a kitten. They're actually quite short of kittens. Except we can't do that because that's that's currently outside the fortress. Let's temporarily redefine that area as being inside the fortress so we can deliver a kitten to it. And temporarily unlock that hatch so we can deliver a kitten. Oh, it's already unlocked.
In the box, directly to your door.
Right, someone is working on the kitten. Right, the kitten has been delivered. So now we can lock that door again. What are you doing, Forgotten Beast? Looks as though you're wrestling with something. Oh no, that's not wrestling. That's miasma. Right, that's fine. Right, so that hatch is open. So now we want to just quickly confirm that these floor hatches are properly locked, because that would be embarrassing. Confirm it a little harder, please. Thank you, yes. Now that floor hatch is properly locked, yes. And then release the Forgotten Beast back out into the cavern. Right. Good night, Claire.
Good night, Claire.
And then watch the Forgotten Beast carefully. So it wanders over here, and then pull the lever. That might or might not lock it in. It's in there. Go on. Someone pull the lever. Right, so the question now, that lever is now to the right, that lever is to the left, and was that bridge being open, so I think the bridge is about to close. The lever's been pulled. So that lever there is the one for the web hatch, which is closed and is closed. That lever there. So is our problem that the Forgotten Beast was standing on the bridge when it was activated, and therefore the bridge hasn't worked properly? Curses. Let us urgently pull the lever twice in the hope that that will... Yeah. There we go. Sufficient. So Jacob says, gosh, I thought bridges flung their on-standers. Bridges only do that with sufficiently light creatures. Forgotten Beasts tend to be so heavy that the bridge instead doesn't operate. So I'm just going to let things run in case I've accidentally screwed the bridge up. I don't think I have, so I think... Yes, that the... that Forgotten Beast is now correctly trapped. And we can let people into caverns, and for safety construct a wall here. We should pull this lever a couple of times. Right, and the Forgotten Beast is now walled in, so we can't accidentally let it out again. We should dismantle the lever that might also accidentally let it out, shouldn't we? There. Right.
Is there not some non-zero chance that a lever will be accidentally pulled in the process of dismantling it?
Not as far as I know, no. And this Forgotten Beast gets to not be locked in with a pile of dead cats, which is nice for it. Right. Ooh, a weaponsmith taken by a Fey Mood. That'd be exciting. Or at least has claimed a metalsmith's forge. You're going to make it out of something stupid, aren't you? You're going to make it out of silver, yes. Because we've got lots of silver. So another thing I wanted to do.
A weaponsmith with a Fey Mood. I feel as if make it totally clear that this weapon has a right end and a wrong end. Make it totally clear to anyone standing at the wrong end that things are going badly for them. if that means sticking all sorts of spikes and prongs and blackened bits all over it, then so be it.
Yes. Right, so I'm sure there was a thing I was doing. Oh yes, we need to install some grave. We need to install that coffin, reinstall that coffin, which was dismantled in order to fix its weird ownership problem. So that was the one I hadn't managed to find one for. Onon Licot Lawbam. There, wasn't it? No. Kel Rulush Erib. In memory of Kel Rulush Erib. Born 90, struck down by the goblin faded butcher Zolak Ware Spattered in the year 177, at one with giant ocelot bone. What does what mean? Well, now that they're dead, they get to spend the rest of their eternity with some giant ocelot bone because they like giant ocelot bone. I mean, I don't know quite what the dwarven afterlife is like. Yes, Kib. Yes, but the dwarves hope that you get to spend eternity with your favourite materials. Kib Zedotonol. In memory of Kib Zedotonol. Born 137, struck down by the Forgotten Beast Sanine Fate Mind the Fatal Bones, in the rampage of the Forgotten Beast Sanine Fate Mind the Fatal Bones, in Rhythmgates in the year 177. Loving father, at one with Oakwood. Kosoth Rethardumat. Oops. I have to look that up separately. In memory of Kosoth Rethardumat, born 122, struck down by the Forgotten Beast Sanine Fate Mind the Fatal Bones, in the rampage of the Forgotten Beast Sanine Fate Mind the Fatal Bones, in Rhythmgates in the year 177. Slayer of the Forgotten Beast, though not that Forgotten Beast. Yes, didn't bother to mention the name of the Forgotten Beast he slayed, probably because he's forgotten. United with Nickel Silver.
Well, if you slew one Forgotten Beast and got slain by another, then it turns back to the second one, the one that killed you, was more recent and had less time to be forgotten.
We appear to have a slab for someone who hasn't been buried yet. Oh well.
Are they at least dead?
I think you can't. Well, okay, yes. I was about to say I think you can't make a slab for someone who isn't dead. But of course, once they are dead, they may not stay dead. was unexpected. The length of that corridor was mostly an accident.
Setting up to build new.
I mean, it was essentially I hadn't realised it was going to end up in diorite, and it's not really worth digging through diorite because while we get gems in there, we don't find anything else. Whereas granite gets us both amethyst and galena. Still quite an area up there that we haven't covered, isn't there? Kind of unnecessary, but let's put a tunnel in there as well. Probably not really necessary for prospecting that one, but it's a nice big cluster of amethysts. Looking around for any large areas we haven't seriously explored. Oops, that wasn't quite how that was meant to go. Right, I think is now, oh, quite a lot of amethysts there. Let's tag those. I think that's now tunnels that will lead me to have to admit that I've probably mined this area out.
The question is, how many days will I get up in the morning and panic and dash downstairs to empty the container of dripping water? About a week. bronze Colossus still killing undead.
Yeah, one of them is the dwarf scholar faded butcher continues to be alive. Wondering if I can call everyone in. Wondering if I can get them to leave as a scholar who's been around for too long. But I suspect they are going to go. No, I'm still in this fight with a bronze Colossus. I can't possibly leave.
You can't withdraw their research funding.
That's yet more amethysts out available at least. I'm fairly sleepy. I'll probably stop soon. I'm just wondering if I wait and see if this bit of mining yields anything interesting. If you can think of anything I should actually be doing in this game at this point, do let me know. Is there something I've forgotten that I should be... No, I've remembered the Forgotten Beast. That tunnel was completely unhelpful. Which one are you digging next? If any. You've at least found a cluster of amethysts.
I'm hearing that to be whack whack ooze. Sorry? I hear you guys on mute to be whack whack ooze. That's what David Travers used to play. I saw what questions on his quiz. I see. It was intended to give you a cleaning or whatever. eBay Simon. That's what you got a question on. I see. Jacob points out that Heads Onwards is an anagram of Dazed Raw Honks. That's actually what the noise you would play if the Penguin was a game show host. Good night.
Night. Oh, I've struck amethyst apparently. And galena. This is slightly more surprising. Right, so that's going to be a little while now. We found another galena vein. So I think at this stage, having captured yet another forgotten beast, our collection now stands at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 forgotten beasts. We've got 9 forgotten beasts trapped in the fortress so far. We've killed several as well. I think, yes. because occasionally some foolish adventurer, well, not adventurer, some foolish monster hunter will be in the caverns and will get to it before we can trap it. So I think at this point, as my miners have fun with Galena, we should say good night, and we will see you on Sunday.
Yeah, tomorrow.
Or tomorrow, but not on YouTube tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, that won't be until Sunday. Good night.